They are planning to extinct 90% of the population. They try to kill me, they try to bribe me. Most of them are involved in sacrifices with children. You have no idea how many names I have. Top people. And most of them premiers of countries.
All right, yeah, Carine Hutsebaut. I'm so glad that you finally got to connect, and you're good friends with John Wedger. Obviously, I am as well, and I've done a lot of work with John, and it's very important talking about the children and protecting their lives, and that's why I've been gravitated towards this work. You have as well, and John. Would you like to talk a little bit about what got you into your line of work, being a criminal profiler, and also your kind of urge and your heart to want to help these children?
I would like to start to say that it is even more important to talk about the criminals. Who are they? Why do they do what they do? Because I work with victims and offenders for over 30 years, because you cannot understand the one if you don't understand the other one. I can give you multiple examples of that, and especially then you see the evil programs that are running in the background, like prevention campaigns to protect children. It is always a child that has to say no. Now tell me, is that normal? In my website, you see other campaigns where I point out to the offender, it's up to you to say no. I did expertise on men who rape 3-month-old babies and 6-month-old babies. How is such a baby capable of saying, no, I don't want this? We don't even know what the consequences are on long term with babies, because they are not verbal. They show that they are in trouble, because as soon as something comes to their mouth, like a spoon, they panic. They panic, they retract, or they start to headbang on the bed, on the wall. These children have other means to show there is something wrong. So, yeah, we cannot ignore the offenders. While I'm treating one victim, I know that the offender makes an average of 120 to 150 new victims in his sexual active life, being from, let's say, 14 to 80. Well, that's cleaning with the tap open, isn't it? We have to stop the offenders. We have to stop the rapists, the killers. And now all the focus and the burden is on the victim. I don't buy this. I really don't. So, and I said that already 20 years ago in an interview in Mainstream, that these campaigns have been produced by, and not pedophiles, pedocriminals. There's a big difference. Pedophile is Greek for loving children. I'm a pedophile. Probably you are one. We are not pedocriminals or pedosexuals. They want sex with a child. It's a big difference. And I see that in my practice when child sex offenders tell me that, you know what the word pedophile means, do you? I said, oh yeah, I do. But you are not a pedophile. You're a pedosexual, a pedocriminal. We have to use the right words. It's all in the words.
Well, they're pedo rapists, is what they are.
Not always. They're not always rape.
No.
There's a whole scale of abuse, sexual abuse. It can be exposing a child to pornography that is absolutely not suitable for his or her age. It is filming the children without touching them, naked, and selling this material. It is so many things. Is having sex with somebody in front of children. It's also child abuse, sexual, because there are 5 forms of child abuse, big forms. Emotional abuse, you're ugly, you're stupid, nobody will ever love you. And these children hear this from the moment they walk around. There is psychological abuse, locking children up in basements in the dark, without food, without drinks, and a child does not have the the um, the consciousness of time as an adult does. So a child who is locked up in a basement in the dark, and sometimes with the rats, they think they are going to stay there for the rest of their lives, which is not true, but that's their perception of the things. Then you have the physical abuse, burning children with cigarettes, with irons, with lighters, and so on, but also stabbing them, hitting them, the physical abuse. Then you have the alcohol, medication, and drug abuse of one or both caretakers. And that's a very underestimated abuse, where people do not realize that little children of 5 have to take care of the smaller ones, and this is not a responsibility you give to a child. Then you have the fifth one, which in fact is the worst, not only because it's sexual, but because many of the other abuses are involved in the fifth one. The sexual abuse, there might be physical harm. The message is, you're not worth anything but a condom or a sex object. They commit their crimes in basements, in obscure areas, and very often the offender is under the influence of drugs, alcohol, or medication. This makes that when children are sexually abused, they start to suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder on long term. That's what we see with adults, of course, that, well, look at our society, it's screwed. Let's be honest about that, it's screwed. You make very weak creatures when you let this happen. Now, the message that the victim gets is also very devastating. Children that have been abused, they are harmed for the rest of their life. It's not true. Children, abused victims are much, much more than just a victim. They just don't know it anymore. So we have to teach them again who they really are. Go back to who you are, all the creativity you have in you, because all this has been shut off for the child. Shut this off to survive, because they need this energy to survive and not to make beautiful drawings. So a lot of their possibilities and their skills are blocked off. And sometimes, especially in networks, the evil do not want these children to develop whatever positive thing of themselves. I have a lot of victims that were marvelous artists, in fact, but they have been so tortured and hit and blocked in these skills that they dare not draw anymore. It goes that far. They are not allowed to love themselves, to appreciate themselves, to be themselves, and all this has to be restored. It's not difficult, that's not the point, but of course it can. You go to very painful stages in this but then you need the right skilled person to help you through this. There are the flashbacks, there are the programs that are installed, and programs are not always CIA based, parents that are, there are mothers that really hate their children. They hate them. I'll explain later why.
I'll make a
in
note
the context of networks and bloodlines and all that, I discover incredible things. It's a bit of pity I have not a crew around me and the means to go further, but It is just by listening to people like Heidi, but also the 17 other ones I have, they do not know each other. I don't want them to know each other because I am really hoping that these Nuremberg trials will get installed one day. And I don't want God knows what will be left of the media, the mainstream media, but I don't want them to use things like, oh, but they contaminated each other, they knew each other. And indeed, I've had rescued and abducted children out of psychiatric and mental health hospitals that were starting to adapt their story, because how strange this might sound, children who were talking about incest, family abuse, were taken serious, while the one I abducted from the mental health hospital, it was her neighbor who was a director of a school, and nobody listened to her. And then she started to adapt her story to, well, it wasn't my neighbor, it was my father. Immediately, they took her and put her in the registration room to register her testimony. It was not her father. So you have to be very, very careful with these things, because children also can adapt their histories, their stories, to be heard. And that is what is annoying me for the moment also, is that everybody's talking about satanic abuse, evil abuse and all that. What about the other children that are raped? What about them? Isn't it bad for them then? Nobody talks about, it's dangerous to do it, but normal rape of children. All of a sudden, it has to be satanic, ritual, sects, high-placed people. Well, how are we going to clean out what is true and what is not true now? Just as the example I gave you of Anne, who started to see, oh, but when I say it's my father, they listen. How many now are thinking, I have to put a lot of satanic stuff in it, so at least they will listen to my pain. It's not an accusation. It's just trying to understand their pain, their real pain. And we cannot allow that to happen. A child who has been raped by a neighbor or an elder brother or an uncle, it's as bad as a child from ritual abuse. I mean, the pain is there. The brokenness is there. They deserve to be protected and to be heard, and make sure that justice is done for these children too. I just want to point this out. I don't make this distinction. When somebody comes in and the mother says, oh, well, my daughter has been touched between the legs by the neighbor, for me, it's the same as ritual abuse or whatever. This child is hurt, right? I don't make comparisons on a scale like the Richter scale. Oh, this is a 10, this is a 3. No, abuse is a fucking abuse. Let's be clear about that. And it's not going to happen again. And I'll make sure that it will never happen again. Yes. So, yeah, well, there are a lot of things to say about all this. How are we going? What I would like is a safe house for the victims of ritual abuse, because then you have the whole scale. But also for criminals, handlers. I have 7 of them who want to get out of this sects and these organizations, but they can't because they're going to be killed. They are in there because they have been abused themselves as children, and they made handlers of them. So they have to kidnap children, bring them in for abuse, contact parents. For money, we can, use your child. And nobody ever talks about it, but there are many, many parents involved in just renting out their children. And that was already in the Tutu case. I'm talking about more than 25 years ago. I have these victims, I've had them in therapy to restore them. And you can easily find out it's nothing more difficult than simplicity, I think. People are looking so far away to find an explanation. It is not, it is simple. I ask these children then, what does your mother do for a job? What does your father do for a job? And then it's a postman, and the mother is, well, she stays at home to raise the children. And then I look at these children's clothes and I think, what? What do they pay for this? Or what are your interests? Oh, I have my horse, and you know, and it's just not fitting. It's not possible that these people are able to live in a huge villa, being a postman and a mother at home, you know. And I have many, many of them. One I asked at a certain point, she's still in the network, and she's in her 30s now. I asked her, she said, oh, my parents are building another villa in the most expensive part of Belgium. Her mother was a hairdresser who stayed home with her daughter. Let's call her Rita. And the father was a mechanic in a construction company. Red flag, construction company, immediately. Anneke Lucas is talking about Van den Boeynants in her interviews. Van den Boeynants was heavily involved in construction in, for instance, Brussels, where he wiped out a complete area, the North Station, to build World Trade Centers. At that time, his best friend was Charlie de Pauw, who was the construction man, and Van den Boeynants was the Minister of Defense in Belgium. And he brought in the system of the CIA of networks. Ballet Rose, Ballet Bleu, blue ballet is the little boys, rose, pink. Pink ballet is for the little girls. He brought this in to compromise high-placed people. So, but you have to dig deep, and you have to go far, and you have to be old enough to understand. Oh yeah, Van den Boeynants, yeah, whoa, and he was a very charismatic politician and all that. He brought that system in, and that's for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier about this needs to be brought back down to, you know, mentioned just like everyday families. This is going on that level, and it has been for forever, right? But you're mentioning that this was actually brought in as a more of a controlled network within Belgium, as an example. And that happened around the time of, yeah, his name was Van Boeynants, wasn't he? He was the president.
And it was in the 80s.
Yes.
And
Annika
then they started to destabilize Belgium with attacks, the Bende of Nijvel, where we were shot. I'm talking about 1983. When I went to the supermarket, there were snipers on the roof to protect us. Belgium, Brussels, and around Brussels, the capital of Europe, because this gang came in, just shoot everybody who was around. There were 29 people killed in several supermarkets, and it was not for money. They took some money, but it was just destabilize the entire system. So it was a psyop to start with, but nevertheless, children were killed, whole entire families have been shot. And that was under the supervision of Van den Boeynants. He was then in contact with the CIA.
Was Belgium a particularly, was it notorious for this, or is this? I'm guessing it goes on in every city, or was
Oh,
Belgium one of
yes.
the first? Was that like a major point?
Yeah. Yeah. And the result was people were screaming, more blue in the streets, more police to protect us.
Mm,
Well, look at where we are now. In Belgium, I don't know, you're from the UK, I guess. It
mm,
must be the same. There are cameras everywhere. And then it looks as if we asked for this.
mm.
No, we didn't. They first create a problem and then they'll solve it. And you asked for it. You asked for more police in the streets. Well,
Yeah.
it was meant to catch the bad ones, not to catch us and take our money. So all this is planned. It's sickening,
Mm,
but it's planned. But also the capture of children. And, um, you know, I had a client, and I'm talking about must be 30 years ago. And he came in because he had a depression. So often that's the camouflage to say I've been abused. In this case, it wasn't like that. But I thought, okay, probably he has been abused. It's a man, difficult to talk about rape, being raped especially. And but while talking to him, he worked for Siemens. Siemens is all electro material like a shaker, a mixer, tools to work in the kitchen with. You
mm.
see, and after 2, 3 sessions, he started to tell me why he was so depressed. So it takes time to get to the truth. And he said, "Well, I work for Siemens, and I had to make little cameras to hide into rooms, like in a flower. I'm talking about 30 years ago, you know. So they had these little cameras we all have in our computers now. They had that. And they used it. They put plants in a room where then a victim comes in, is brought in, and then the rich man can abuse the child. And everything is filmed. It was even in the eyes of birds on paintings. So
Oh, wow.
small, nobody could see. Yeah, and they could film everything what uh, the famous person or the politician or whatever they wanted, whoever they wanted to compromise. Um, they didn't know, but they were filmed while raping a child of 3 years, 5 years, whatever. They were filmed already more than 30 years ago, must be 40 years ago.
Mm. Well, so you spoke to the person that would set the rooms up and get like the camera plants everywhere.
Yeah, and he was sick of it but he thought that it was to film sex with a prostitute and blackmail them. But
Mm.
he found out it was with children. And in the meantime, our societies have so evolved that, okay, well, before when you were a politician and you cheated on your wife, you lost your post. Um, but that, okay, we don't care anymore. You do what you want in your private life. Then later on, it was when they were in orgies with adults, and even that taboo has been dropped. Men politicians that were homosexual, they had to hide it because otherwise they would lose
Mm.
their status and their job. Now the only taboo still left, and it will never ever be accepted by the people, is child sex abuse,
Mm.
rape. Why? Because it is genetically implanted in people that this will not be allowed. People will never accept this. You don't touch children. And there has been studies long ago in tribes in Central America, somewhere, or no, South America, and in New Guinea. I don't know how you say it in
Mm.
English. New Guinea,
Oh, New Guinea.
New Guinea.
New
Yeah,
Guinea. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
they examined tribes, and they found out that when somebody touches a child, immediately that person is put out of the tribe.
Yeah.
And they had to survive alone in the jungle, which is awfully difficult. But after a time, and these are the older wise people that decided this, they are allowed to come back. They are not stigmatized, but they are supervised. So they can fit into the community again. But, we are so far away from all this. But even in tribes that, they make fire with 2 stones, you don't touch a child. You don't do it.
Yeah.
And now this here is the only taboo left to blackmail somebody. That's why it's especially focused on children.
And how do they even get into it? Because are they forced to rape a child, or do they want to? Like who? Because how could you blackmail someone that obviously doesn't want to do a heinous act like that? I mean,
that happened in the 2 case with Regina Louf X1, who first came out about the networks and the involvement of very high-placed people, Regina Louf. That's why it's so important to work with both parties in the crime. There is the victim, and the victim is chosen, and there is the offender, and he chooses. So the one is a passive actor in the crime, and the other one is an active partner in the crime. He has chosen, that's active. The victim is chosen, that's passive. Because I work for so long with victims and criminals in this area, I understand the interaction very well. These children, especially in networks, are trained from a very, very young age to please the adult. For instance, Regina Louf, she was 2 years of age when her parents brought her to a grandmother at the coast side, and the grandmother before had a brothel in Bruges, a brothel for Nazis. But then she had a beautiful villa next to Van den Boynans. What a coincidence. We have a long coastline. And there her grandmother trained her to suck on a bottle of lemonade, and she gave the name. What was it again? Can't remember, but it will come back. It is a kind of lemonade that isn't made since 40, 50 years anymore. But my grandmother, who also was from Bruges, when we came to visit grandma, she bought these little bottles of lemonade at the time. For us, it was really a party then, because my parents didn't want to give us this kind of shit. But for grandma, when we came, it was really a celebration. And these little bottles seem a bit like a penis. They are like this, and then they go like that. Oh, wait a minute. And she had to learn to suck on these little bottles. So every detail in what a victim is telling you, and you can verify it, you have to do it. She told the truth. And there was one man, I will not name his name, who was very famous in sports, who, when her book about these networks came on the market, he committed suicide. Nobody understood why. He just bought a new horse. Life looked as if it was okay. He was a world champion in something, and he thought that his name was in her book. She told me, I have all this on tape, she told me that this man had been brought in a room. She was 5, and she was sitting on the bed, and he thought that they brought him in, and there would be an adult prostitute. So he thought, okay, I'll talk to her, but I'm not going to do this, and I go back. Not knowing that all these cameras are around. But Regina knew the cameras were there, and she had a task to do. Make sure that he rapes you or that he commits a sexual crime. And it took weeks. Each time they brought him back, and each time he said, no, I'm not going to do that. I can't. And then Regina started to cry. And she said, but sir, I like this. I like this. And anyway, if I don't do it, they're going to beat me. Mm-hmm. And he was in a dilemma, and he allowed her to suck his penis. He was screwed. Because even in sports, they then will decide if you're going to win or you're not going to win.
Really?
Yep.
They can control a game. How can they control a match?
Well, a match, for instance, if it is like tennis, you're not going to win today, and you know why. You know what we have. But people are betting. You know, there are this betting where you bet, you put your money on this one will win, especially in England, it's very popular. You can put money on this one to win, or in horse races.
Gambling.
There's a lot of money involved.
And then, but so you're saying that, okay, so let's say boxing or tennis or something where it's a one-on-one, you tell one of the players is told you have to throw this game, you have to lose this game.
Yeah, that's right. How it goes. It doesn't work in everything.
Yeah, it can't work in football, but it can't work in a game of football, but it could work in one-on-one or something.
Even in football, I think they can do it.
Really?
Because sometimes you hear, how is it possible that he missed this ball?
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. So it's very difficult to say where. I don't say it's everywhere, but that's how they do it. And this man thought that his name would be in her book. That she exposed him in the book, and he couldn't bear the humiliation for his family, for everybody, and he committed suicide.
Can we not say the name then? Because he's dead now.
It is Regina that told me. I know why he did that. He couldn't live with it, and he thought that I had put his name in the book, which I didn't. What is the title of her book again? James for Offenders or something.
What's her name? Who is she? What's
Regina
her name?
Louf. Regina Louf. Regina.
I'll look this up and I'll put this into the edit. Regina Louf.
It's one. She testified under X1 for her protection in the beginning. But after, I think, a year, she just said, okay, everybody may know who I am.
Right.
Regina Louf. She's very, very known. She's linked to the Dutroux case from begin to bottom.
So she is someone that was born into a family, like a bloodline or a family that's involved with trading children, right?
There's a big difference. I'm going to talk about the bloodlines a little later. She was in a family. I think her mother had a salon for dogs, cutting hair of dogs and all that. She was an only child, and I don't remember what her father did. He was a simple worker. So, but then a friend comes in, and then he had a relationship with the daughter when she was 12. And then they started to rent out their daughter because he was a handler then, this so-called friend. Tony, I don't remember his, time goes by, 25 years ago. Tony, I know his name was Tony. And he admitted it in front of the police, but nothing has been done to him. And then she got involved in this with the agreement of the parents. And then they have a lot of money.
Oh, so her own parents are willingly letting this happen?
Oh, yeah. And I have testimonies from prisoners I was following up that they said that the gendarmerie went to the houses, even at 3 a.m, with the parents, and they had to take their children. They took the children, they brought them to the Baleros.
What's the Boleros? What's that? Is that?
It's called the ballet, the pink ballet with little girls, or the blue ballet with little boys, and these are orgies with children.
What? Yeah, I've heard that as well before, that they're taken to certain events and high-profile events and like a kind of orgy places.
Yeah, and on specific dates and celebrations, and
they have these in castles and stuff as well. That Annika was telling me that some of them happen in castles. And why are the parents doing it though?
Well, probably it are already broken parents, and for the money.
For the money, yeah.
Status. Money. Now, about the bloodlines, I've asked that to many, many victims. How come you survived? And they all said, well, separately from each other. Well, it has something to do with my bloodlines, but I don't know what. I don't know why they're still, because I'm talking, I'm speaking out, I'm having interviews, and they don't kill me. And I thought, what is... So I know bloodlines. Then a word that came back very often was Spain. I thought, Spain? Why Spain? The mothers hated their children, the girls. One even raised her girl as a boy. I have pictures of that. You won't believe this. So, and after a while, you start to make templates, and you say, oh, that's strange. Oh, she's saying the same. They don't know each other. They live at the other end of the planet. They don't even have the same age. They don't even speak the same language. So I have to switch from French to German to Spanish to English to Dutch, which is my language. And I'm recovering from a hemorrhage in my brain now at this very moment. I have 2 of them in 14 days. Wow, just exploded. Too much work. Always working at inhabitable hours at 4 a.m, because then in Mexico it's that time, and then in New Zealand, Australia, and you have to adapt all the time. And in the end, you don't sleep anymore. You are always working, and your brain is always working and thinking. Well,
Carine, look after yourself, please. We need you here. We need you fully fit.
I am lucky that my brain is functioning well, but walking is a disaster, and using my left hand is still a disaster.
Oh my goodness.
I have to go to the physiotherapist every day.
When was this? When did you have the brain hemorrhage?
The end of October.
Oh my goodness, that's only last year. Wow, it's only a few months ago. Goodness me.
It's impossible to not work. I can't just leave these people alone.
You said that to me before.
I was wondering, especially the hate these women had for their children. And then I started to combine the links. Nobody did this yet in the world. I thought there is something with that bloodlines. You know what I found?
Yeah.
Buckle up. Sperm banks exist since over 100 years.
Yeah.
And there were sperm banks in Spain. Who deposit their sperm, do you think, there?
Who deposits their sperm in a sperm bank in Spain? So are they, you mean Spanish people? Which Spanish people? I don't know. Okay.
That time it was a dictator during the war. But
someone that was alive during what, the Second World War from Spain?
Yeah.
From
there, all these Nazis escaped to the United States with the help of the Vatican.
Hang on, are you talking about Operation Paperclip?
Yeah. And they fled Germany, and they were helped from the Vatican, and they went to Spain, and then they went to United States, where they are now from then on they were the big experts, you see.
Right, what's that got to do with the sperm though?
Well, the sperm of the Rockefellers, Soros, Bush, and the whole clique is there.
Right.
Because these women have been captured from countries all over the world, brought there, impregnated, and sent back home. And
Oh,
these
right.
children are followed. And these are the children who are now adults who we see on these important places.
Oh my God. So all these like surrogate women
Rough,
being brought in
WEF,
to breed, they're breeding the seed of these blue bloods, probably. You know, they're like a
blue
different.
bloods.
I
Yeah,
think they're a Nephilim. I think they're a different race altogether. That's another separate topic, but they're a different genetics to us. That's what I believe.
probably. Yeah.
I don't want to go too much into that because that kind
No,
of
because
takes
then
it
you
off a
come
little bit,
into
but
these reptilians, and I think, well, I have
yeah,
my hands more than full with the humans.
exactly.
So
Yeah, we
not
don't need to
going in
talk.
the area of reptilians.
I actually talk about that with someone called Amanda Byes. We do a whole presentation on that, but we're not going to talk about that because that's a whole rabbit hole that we don't
Yeah.
need to go into right now. Let's keep it on the human level for now.
Mm.
But yeah, that's so that. So you actually spoke to someone who had been born through being taken to. No, sorry,
Father. Yeah.
sorry, yeah. So you'd spoken to someone, a mother who had gone there, and the seed was put in at this clinic from one of the Rockefellers or the Bushes or
Yeah.
the.
Her father never signed for her. Her father was involved in, he invented things. And then during the war, people who invented things like a washing machine or
Mhm.
a tool that can heal people, they immediately were taken in Germany to to work out their whole project. So it is such a dark world nobody knows about. But my universities are the criminals and the victims. They know. They know not exactly what, but these women are forced to have a baby from one of these evil people, if they want it or not. Most of the time, they can't find. I ask each time, please go to your town, go to your village, go to your city, ask a copy of your birth certificate. They can't get it.
No record.
There is none. No, no. And I don't know how they make their way in schools. I've no clue at that moment, but I'll find out.
So what? Why would they be taken to a clinic to do it? Don't these people want to rape the children and implant the seed that way?
They are raped, they are abused. Oh, yeah, they are. But they are not killed. The abuse and the rape and the torture is all part of the MK Ultra
Yeah,
traumatizing children.
yeah.
Yeah.
But why are these people? Why are some taken to a clinic and the seed is inserted that way to create the baby, and why are others raped and the seed implanted that way? What's the difference
You
in
won't find
decision making?
Soros and Rockefellers in the rape gangs we're talking about here.
Mm,
You never hear those names, do you, if victims are talking about
mm.
high level sexual abuse? They never talk about the Rockefellers, the Soros. Their names are not there. Bush, uh, BlackRock people, no. But their sperm is in sperm banks. And this was already 100 years ago.
Wow. So basically, they are then continuing their genetics, they're continuing their bloodlines, they're exponentially creating more of their own kind. And then those children born from that seed are then kept alive in those networks. And they are the ones that are
Programmed,
programmed to do certain things, but also used
broken
to blackmail other athletes, sportsmen, politicians.
times, but most of the
Yeah.
times they, from these bloodlines, are introduced in politics. And that are the ones who we see in the European Union, in the Bilderberg groups,
Yeah.
and they distribute the jobs with. Why go voting? Why do we go voting?
Yeah. No,
Each
no.
time it's not who we voted for. We have a premier, they had the
Mm,
lowest figures in the votes 4 years ago. I had a discussion with him here on my marketplace, and my partner in crime, he
mm.
asked, they were devastated because the outcome was extremely low, and they were in a panic. And I saw the handler of our premier, De Croo, was just behind him, his father, half the size of his son. It was pure evil when he looked at me. And Chris said, ask your the one who is the boss of the party, the political party. I can't get the name now.
What, the Prime Minister? You mean what? President, Prime Minister?
He now is Prime Minister.
Yeah.
So, although they were the lowest votes ever. And we had a discussion, we were talking to him, and Chris said, ask your representative of your party what she did in Bilderberg. And the Crow stood there, Alexander the Crow stood there. Bilderberg, what are you talking about? And I thought, you fucking liar. And there was another man, a businessman also involved, and he said, isn't this a think tank? I said, yeah, think tank where they decide for the rest of the world what they can and cannot do. And the responsible for this political party was Gwendoline Rutte. And our premier now asked, you mean Rutte from the Netherlands, who is premier in the Netherlands? And Chris said, no, your Rutte, who is the head of your political party. And he pretended as if he didn't know what Bilderberg was. I almost believed him that he didn't know, but that's not possible.
They all know, right? At that level, they all know what the Bilderberg group is. And so what actually goes on there? Is that a place where they have all their bloodlines there and they're deciding, or is it like rituals and orgies go on there? Like, what is that Bilderberg group?
Well, they have their parties, of course, with rituals and all that, but also they decide what new law they're gonna have and who are they going to put where in which place in the world. Because these women that I'm the mothers of these victims I have, they were in fact from all over the world. The Netherlands, New Zealand, Australia, Belgium. I have two of them in Belgium, the United States. And then a lot of them are adopted in Canada, for instance. But they have no papers. And, you know, this is a complete parallel system we are not even aware of. But they know what to do with these victims, of course, because they are their blood.
It's their blood. So it's always theirs, but no one else can get into it unless they're part of a bloodline. Is that right? Would you say?
What they are doing now, placing these people in important places, and they don't have to be smart. They just have to obey, and to be able to get them to obey to everything is break them as young as possible, and that's in rituals, sexual abuse, rape, torture.
Yeah, but they have to be in that bloodline, is what I'm asking, or can they be an outsider who, with a normal human, whatever you want to call it, like a non. What is the name for?
Not involved one. No.
Sorry?
Not involved one. No.
You can't have someone outside of that network coming in as an outsider and then being blackmailed to make it.
Yes, they can. If they have certain skills that the network wants to later put in politics on this space or this place, then you know the Second World War never ended. It went underground.
Yeah, I believe that, yeah.
And that is what we see now. Never ended. Franco was the name. Spain.
Franco, right? Okay, yeah, Franco.
Dictator Franco. Yeah. And so this sperm bank was. I have papers of it. I found papers of it.
But his sperm was kept. Franco's.
That what?
So why did you mention Franco then? What was his sperm collected and stored?
Probably.
Right. Okay.
Because in Spain, you know, I wrote the book. Little Sinners, church and child trafficking. There's a lot of this in that book already. The Vatican and the nuns threatened to sue me, but they only did it via the mainstream media. And it's in 2003, you know, I'm born too early. My books, it takes about 20, 30 years before they find their place. And the next one is now, just since yesterday, on my website. In the Name of God, in God's Name, Profile of a Perverted Church, where I explain the difference between borderline personality, psychopaths, and what kind of people wear this, did this hyper sacrifices in wars and kill millions of people. What kind of people are these? That's in the last book now, in the Name of God, in God's Name. But all this takes a lot of focus on why are they saying this? Why are they saying that? Why Spain? And then you go look. Oh yeah, and then I already put in the book of Little Sinners that these children that were just abducted from parents, good parents, and brought into orphanages and institutions where they were terribly abused. That's in the last book also, where you then see that it is a lot of these children just disappear. I put pictures in my book where you see the nuns after Hitler. They were all involved in this. These children were also sold to the pharmafia, like Pfizer and all that, for experiments.
Oh, really?
For $1 a piece.
Oh.
It's in my book. And I've put pictures of it in it.
So they were children that were not born into a particular bloodline, you know, the ones we're talking about here, these sort of, you would say, kind of specialized bloodlines that kind of are kept alive and kept going for millennia. We're talking about your average person, an average kid with a normal blood type being taken in and used as for experimentation and to be put through things at big pharma, right?
In Little Sinners, because I've been examining the mothers, their children were stolen at birth. In Spain, there's still 500,000 people searching for their mothers. How did Franco do it? He abducted. He gave the order to take the children, the newborns, and put them in Franco-minded families.
What does that mean, Franco-minded? Sorry, what do you mean by that?
Well, then in families where they were in favor of Franco. So these children were raised not by their own parents, because those parents didn't know where their children went from birth. And they put them in families that were, adoring Franco.
Oh, I see.
So they just create their own world all the time.
So are these children kidnapped, or are they
absolutely at birth?
They're kidnapped. What, in the hospitals? Where?
Hospital. Or
Really?
Yeah, and France is the only country where you can give birth sus X, under X, anonymity. And in Flanders, which is half of Belgium, 30,000 women, their children has been stolen at birth.
No.
And they sell it. Yeah, they sell them. It's all in the book. I mean, I'm writing books, so I don't have to explain it.
Yeah, no, I know. So I know, but
we can't read every book, of course. And
yeah, I know. Yeah.
To understand where we are now, people should better read my books.
We will do, and I'll get them to. I'll make sure people do. Please, read the books, buy the books, go and support Carine, please. I'm going to leave a link as well, and you can see it in the description below to the books. So those 30,000 in Flanders were kidnapped from what time?
25,000 in the Netherlands, 500,000 in Spain. Then I called.
What's the time frame though? During how long a period though is that?
It was, I think, from the 50s to the 90s, and probably still ongoing.
Okay, all right, yeah.
But then, with those, wait a minute, with those bloodlines, hold on a minute, where was I again? Oh yeah, then I heard from a woman who was looking 20 years for to find her real mother, her natural mother. And she was talking about in France, in the south, the north of France, the police has started an investigation because 18 little boys in one town, there was no trace of it. And when they became 18, they had to join the military, and they were never to be found. So they were noted as deserters. So I contacted the captain of the gendarmerie in France. I think it was in Malo-les-Bains. It's just the other side of the border from my country. And I made an appointment, and he said, "Oh yeah, those children that disappeared." I said, "Yeah." And the rest, I said. "Oh yes," he said. "Well, yeah, these children who have been sold for organ trafficking." I'm talking about the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s for organ trafficking. He told me, I was a bit shocked. I was not thinking of that. And also the experiments, he said, in pharmaceutical industry. I said, "Well, yeah, this and others." I wasn't even thinking of it. So I had this appointment. I went to France. And when I came there, he said, "I'm very sorry, but I'm not allowed to talk to you about this." So I had to go back. This is not from hearsay, John. This is being into it. There's one thing, I am missing a gene. I don't know what fear is. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good.
They tried to kill me. They tried to bribe me. They tried everything.
Really? Who has? What did they say?
Oh, it goes so smoothly. You have no idea. At a certain point, I had 3 offices, one in Paris, one near Brussels, and then one more the side of the Netherlands for the people there. And I came in my office. I had to go to a lounge, and 2 men approached me. I can immediately see their shoes. I said, "Wow, these are Italian shoes, and the costume Italian rich people. They're not even aware that they are, in fact, denouncing themselves." But okay, I saw that. And they said, "Oh, Carine, we need to talk to you," as if they know me. I said, "I can't. My waiting room is full." I had somebody who was in practice placement. Yeah, Claire.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, but we'll wait." I said, "Well, it can take a long time." And so I started to work with my patients, and I forgot all about them. But then I said to Claire, "Well, take over for a minute. I'm going to the toilet." And they were still sitting and waiting there. I thought, "Oh, that's not normal. Rich people just sitting there to talk to me? Why?" So I went to their table. I said, "Well, what is it about? But please, 15 minutes, because I have a huge amount of people waiting for me there." And they said they wanted to talk to me. They had money for me. I said, "Oh, that's nice, because I don't take anything with my associations. It's from selling from my books, expertises I have to do, consultations I do. I am really terrified of people offering money." And they said, "Well, we heard you say on television that if you had the money, you would buy an abandoned little village in the mountains of France and hide all the mothers there that have to give by law their children to the abusing father. We can help you." That's their introduction. I said, "Whoa, that's very nice, but we can't discuss this now, this kind of thing. Anyway, I need time to to process."
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. They took 18 months. It took 18 months. Everywhere I came, they were there. Until in the end, after 18 months, they said, "Okay, we're going to put our cards on the table. We have," and I'm talking about 2002 now. It's 22 years ago. They said, "We have 500,000 euros for you." And I knew, oh, this is information. Information is the same as if you get the money from the mafia. So I said, "Oh my God, how am I going to get out of here? And I said, wow, that's a lot of money. And then he said, yeah, but it could help you. And anyway, we are going to make sure that you have your own program on television. And you thought, who are these people? I already had research done by somebody, and they were involved in mafia, um, uh, guns and arms traffic, drugs
Mhm.
traffic, child traffic, women traffic, um, and tobacco trafficking. It's it's one pie,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
and
Yeah.
one doesn't know what the other does, but in fact, it's one pie. And I had to get out of this, and I said, well, that's a lot of money. My God, it would be the same as £1 million now.
Yeah, of course.
Um, you know, can't do anything with 500,000 euros. If I have 500,000 euros, I buy me a nice little house in the south of France with a swimming pool, and I do nothing anymore.
Mm.
I said, now I have to think, oh, what are we going to pay? The rent for the office or the telephone bills? So I have to be, my brain has to work all the time. I think there are people that can use it much better than I can. So, no, thank you. And I left. You can't believe how much they appreciate you. It's mafia. They can't buy me, but
What
they
did they
appreciate it.
what did they want for that 500,000 though? Did they say?
Well, I was in contact with my professor in the United States and my father, the only two people I talked about it. To whom could I talk about something like that anyway? And my professor said, never, never accept anything. They have something in mind. I don't know what yet, but. And then my father said, never accept something that you cannot pay back within 12 hours. Here you have your money back. They know you can't because you bought a car or whatever and you can't pay them back, so they strangle you.
Mm.
And after 18 months, my professor said, I think I know why they want to buy you. They have a program for you. And because they were talking about having my own program on television, I never asked for it. I would have to sell their evil program to the people. And I know who took the money now. And it's about early sexualization of children. That was the problem they had in mind for
You
me to
think
sell to the public.
you think that was the program they wanted you
Oh,
to
yeah.
push?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Because I know who took it. I know who took it. And I
Go on.
wrote her an email. Oh, did you take the €1 million? She never responded. I knew
So
her because I
yeah, yeah,
was
yeah.
in a program of her very often.
So she got onto the TV show then. She had her own show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who is it? Come on,
And
who is it?
then
Tell
she
me.
has been a politician.
What's
Now she's a politician.
we must be able to say her name then if if she's out there already, no? On TV.
Now she's on TV because now she's a politician.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna name her because I
Okay, all right.
already did, and she has cancer for the moment, and but
Right,
she was
okay.
completely down. She had a program on television before she started this
Mm.
program, and she came to the UK to talk in Parliament about the importance of early sexualization of children. She came talk to, and also in the Netherlands. So I saw it immediately. I said,
Yeah.
"You fucking bastard!" He said, I thought you took that money. You sold
Mm.
your soul."
Yeah.
Huh? I'm still there. I'm around. No,
Do you
but
think that mm,
it's like a snake bucket. Wherever you put your hand, especially now with the child trafficking and the child abuse thing, it's really awful, awful,
why
dangerous.
why did they come after you though? What like why would they ask you first if you're someone that's very anti their whole network, their whole snake, their whole system?
Because I am already working in this and having interviews in in the mainstream media at the time. Now I refuse to talk to them anymore. But 35 years, nobody was involved in this. 35 years, it was long before the Dutroux case. I made a perfect profile of Dutroux a year before they arrested him. The children were still alive, Julie and Melissa. My God, the problems I've had with that. Because I dared to make a profile. And I have the proof that they had the name of Dutroux. Gendarmerie had the name of Dutroux at that time. They knew everything about him.
So you were actually one of the first to blow the whistle on about Dutroux, right? You were one of the first to say that this guy's, selling children. He's procuring children, and they wouldn't listen to you, right? Is that the story?
I made a profile because this is information the way you are talking about that. Well, it can be anyone. But I said he's between 35 and 40. He's married. He's in a divorce. He has children. He lives in the triangle Namur, Charleroi, Liège. He has been in prison for abduction, enlèvement, séquestration et torture. For abduction, keeping somebody locked up, and torture. You don't have thousands of them, especially not in that part of the country, the half of the country. And the triangle, Namur, Charleroi, Liège, if you have one, it's much. So It had to be the two. And I had so much trouble with gendarmerie. You have no idea. They wanted to arrest me. I didn't understand. I thought we are looking for these children. You have no idea how I've been questioned by 5 police officers. And then, well, you don't understand at that moment. I'm talking about 1995. The children disappeared 2 weeks earlier, Julie and Melissa, 8 years of age. And they started to question me in the office and the parents were outraged because they throw out the police out of their house. And I had to calm them down and say, okay, I'll come later. Go to the office. I'll come later. And it was the mother of one of the girls who drove me to the police department. I didn't know where it was, in the middle of nowhere. And then they are waiting for you and they are asking questions. Where did you study? They wanted to know all kinds of things. I thought, what's the matter here? And then I saw after 4 hours of questioning that 2 of these police officers sat on the radiator, the heating. And I hear them whispering something to each other, but enough to understand. And I said, no, I'm not going to leave before you tell me what is going on. Understood. And they said, well, it must certainly be a mistake, ma'am. I'm very sorry. We are very sorry. But I said, I'm not leaving before I know what is going on. And then they said, well, we had a telephone call from higher up that we have to make sure that you're out of this investigation of Julie and Melissa. I said, who? Who called you? And then they gave the name, Claude Lelièvre, who was the child kinderrechtenkommissar, the commissar of children's rights.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He put an order in to get you kicked off the investigation.
Yeah, he called the police to get me out of this investigation.
So we're still talking about Marc Dutroux, and we're talking about in the 80s or the 90s? Because I know that he initially he abducted children and raped, I think, 5 children, but he was let off on bail or something like that. He was actually
because his grandmother was sick, something like that. Yeah.
And then but then you started working on the investigation again in the 90s when it all came back up again, right?
95.
Yeah, because it was 95 to 96, wasn't it? When
24th of June, these 2 little girls of 8 disappeared.
Right. Okay. So then which children were you speaking to? You just mentioned you were
Julie and Melissa.
So what's their connection to the missing children?
Julie Lejeune and Melissa Rousseau.
Yeah.
Were the victims that were found in the garden killed.
Oh, so you saw these as dead children in the garden? Is that what you're saying?
No, they have been found a year later. But when I made my profile,
Yeah.
And I've put it in the newspaper because the
Right.
police didn't want to listen. I have a big page in a newspaper where I put the profile in.
Yeah.
And in that article, I say you have to act fast because he's going to do it again. 10 days later, he took on an avian.
How did you know it was him then? How did you know it was Marc Dutroux?
Because there has been, I don't have it here, I just moved and it's in
Mm.
boxes, but I have a paper where from the police, gendarmerie, which said that un avis de recherche non urgent, a search warrant not urgent, with the name of Dutroux, all his cars, all his accomplices, everything. So, and that was the 10th of August, 95. He has been arrested in, I think, the 13th of August, 96, a year later. This means that the children were still alive in this basement when I made this profile. And then he took
Right.
Sabine Dardenne and Laetitia Delay. And then the last ones, when I say he's going to do it again, 10 days later, he took Anne and Evie, and they have been found murdered also. The two in the middle, Sabine and Laetitia, have been found alive in the basement.
In
But
his
he was
basement,
arrested.
right? In his
Yeah, in
basement.
his
Yeah.
basement, yeah, a dungeon. It
Yeah.
was a
Because
dungeon.
it wasn't just for himself, though. He was also procuring children for wealthy people as well, wasn't he?
He was a handler. That he says it himself,
Yeah.
that he was a handler.
Yeah. Like
And
Jimmy
anyway,
Savile, right? He would provide children for wealthy politicians
yeah, but he raped them himself
as
also.
well. Yeah, both.
Yeah,
But I'm saying
but
he
I think the two also. Yeah,
also,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
So you
there
would have
in this
hmm,
in this category, there is always a link to Congo. There is a link to Congo
Congo.
in Africa.
Oh, because that's a huge slave. They have a lot of slavery there, don't they, in Congo?
No, I think it has to do with uh, blood diamonds or something. It was a colony of Belgium, Congo.
Yeah, yeah. It's the connection with Belgium, isn't
Yeah,
it? Congo.
yeah.
So they were what? They would traffic children from Congo and what? Bring them into Belgium? Is that what you mean?
But not for rape, because these are black children. They don't, in general, they don't take, but for adoption, for selling for adoption. Yeah, lots. And probably also pharmafia. I call it pharmafia, but for pharmacy. Um,
What? So the mafia that works with the Belgian government, I should imagine, they go into Congo.
all involved. You
It's all
can't get
involved.
you
Yeah.
can't get these high places if you're not involved.
So then what do they you saying they go to Congo, they take the children and then they kill them and harvest their organs or are they
Sometimes,
yeah?
or they are used for experiments, for vaccines and all that, and see
Yeah.
how they
How
react
they
on it.
react.
And then some children die of them, and well,
Mm.
it's what the Nazi German did with
Mengele and
Mengele.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, all
it's the
that.
same.
Yeah.
It never stopped.
Well, it's
It
still going
just
on
went
now, isn't it?
underground
It's still going on now.
more than ever.
We've just seen in the last 3 years, everyone's had a lot of people had that, didn't they? You've got
Oh
to be
no,
off your
not
mind
even in my
to take
nose.
that.
Get out.
You've
I've
got to
been
be
trying.
absolutely off your mind to inject that into
Yeah.
your body. You've got to just be so detached from reality that you just have no idea, you know.
That has been told to me in 2003. I got
Yeah.
a phone call from Switzerland, and they said, "There's a ticket in the airport. We want you to come to Geneva. We need to
Hmm.
talk to you." Normally, when there's something danger, I get red flag,
Hmm.
red flag. I had no red flag, so I went to the airport. I traveled to Geneva. When I came there was a private chauffeur waiting for me. He drove in the mountains an hour. It was dark, and I was thinking, fuck, nobody knows where I am. If they throw me in a ravine, nobody will ever find me. But still, I go on, and he stops in front of a huge wooden cabin, beautiful, in the middle of nowhere. Mm. I go and knock. A handsome man opens, and he says, "Come in, Miss Hutsebaut. We need to talk." He had three questions for me. One of them was, "Do you know what does the name Soros, Rockefeller, Bush, and another one, I forgot the fourth one, but I've written that down, so I still have it. I said, well, Bush, the president of the United States. I said, Rockefeller, I don't know. I'm talking about 2003. I said, Soros, no. Rothschild, yeah, well, it makes me think of wine, but I can't say anything more. Then he asked, what do we have to do with the child abuse and torture on the highest levels? So I can help you in this one, but you have to get over the border of legality, because you can't stop it otherwise. So I could help him on this one. And then he ended saying, are you aware they are planning, now listen very carefully what I say, they are planning to extinct 90% of the population. And I thought, but you can't see anything in my face, you see. I thought, my God, I'm here alone in a wooden cabin with a lunatic. I said, no, I'm not aware of that. It took 2007 when it started to go on the internet. And somebody in Paris called me and said, look, he was right. And that was the head of the state security. We didn't know that. I don't ask questions. I just am empty. And then I came into the private driver from this car, and I said, who is this man? He said, you don't know? I said, no, this is the head of state security. I thought, oh God, they have a lunatic. That was all I could think of.
Yeah,
they have a lunatic, and that's the head of the state security. I've been in all these areas, so that's why I know so much. And because I'm not a coward, I never comply. I will not take anything from anybody. And anyway, I asked them, you must have a medical record somewhere. Go and get it. Because, they are so tortured that, of course, there are doctors within the network that also fix those children when they are too much damaged. But I just have another one from the Netherlands, and she has two babies now, 2 children. And she said, well, they had to reconstruct my entire uterus to be able to be pregnant, because it was all destroyed.
Destroyed from rape.
From rape and and torture.
Gosh.
With electrical tools and name it. That's part of the programming also. Electrical tools they introduce annually or vaginally.
Yeah, because I've heard just for anyone watching here and trying to keep up, we're now moving on to where we're talking about children that have gone through traumatic, you could say, mind control programs to a large degree, or it could just be they're tortured for the sake of trade, or the families just having their sadistic pleasure with their own children, which does go on as well, right?
If this is into a family, it is on a different level. I know that Regina Louf, at a certain point, she was brought to a building next to, Wonderland, I think, in Germany. And this is like Disney World, but she could see from the top building where she was brought to as a child, she could see all this merry-go-rounds and all this like Disney World. And this was a place that was the highest level of a huge building where they tortured children to measure their degree of pain resistance. It was with electricity, it was with knives, it was with whatever. And she told me that at a certain point, you hear like a whistle that only dogs can hear.
Yeah.
But you're trained on this. And then you know, okay, 10 seconds and it's over. So these children, most of the time, go through a selection program. If this is the child that is screaming and whatever, with the smallest touch there is, they go in the outer circle. for offenders to trap them, but not the most gruesome one, not the psychopathic one. Maybe some are already pedosexual, others have a tendency to children and want to try something. So this is like, well, it's difficult to say, the minor criminals. And then you have a ring inside where children are more capable of enduring pain. And that goes to the mid-score, like Regina Louf, who are very resistant to pain, and they use almost to death.
So can I just summarize that? Because I was trying to get my head around that. So a lot of children are kidnapped or taken to this place and they're put through this testing program. And you're saying the ones that are sensitive to pain, they will be given out to low-level criminals to be used in, what would they be doing with those kids, that those criminals, what would they be doing?
Probably they'll rape them, but they won't torture
Raped.
them, and they
Yeah.
won't threaten them or whatever.
Just use
But
as
they
sex
would put,
slaves.
they will, yeah, they will put the blame on the child
Yeah.
because it's a dirty child, it's a bad child. They always do. But these
Yeah.
are people they can use in the smaller things, like before, to put somebody on sur écoute, on tap. At the time, it was with these little things you had to plug in, and you needed the authorization of the judge to put somebody on tap and listen to the conversations that the criminals had. Well, this can be a lower level, for instance, if he abuses, and then afterwards they ask him, well, we want you to put Hutsebaut on tap. And he says, no, I can't do that. I don't have the authorization of the judge. We have this. And they show a picture where this creature is abusing a little boy or a little girl. And then he will do the tap. So this is the minor category, but it goes higher and higher. It depends. And that's why they measure the pain resistance of these children. And then they know where they can put them in. It's so organized. You have no
Yeah,
clue.
so it's really like meticulously organized. So
Yeah,
those ones that with the high the sensitivity to pain, you're saying they're used to act as they tap people. So they go and like wire people, like they get the spyware on people.
yeah.
They're ordered to do that. They're ordered to find someone and then bug them. Is that what you mean?
Who puts the wires on whom?
No, that's what I'm asking you. I was a little bit lost when you said that because I was saying the children that have sensitivity to pain, I said they're used in like with criminality, but kind of low level criminals, right? And then you started talking about like the wire and the tapping. I didn't know what that meant. What did you mean by that?
No. The way if somebody wants to listen what you're doing
Yeah,
in the office all day, this tools didn't exist
yeah, I
30,
know.
40 years ago. If you wanted to listen to conversation on a telephone, you had somebody who was sitting in front of in old movies you can
Yeah,
see a thing with all holes in it, and then you take this like your mic in your
yeah,
computer. So they had to, and there are all wires there, and they had to,
yes.
okay, this there,
Complicated.
this there. Yeah, and then they could listen to conversations, but this was only allowed when it was on an order of a judge who wanted to
Yeah.
know what crimes they were preparing. Well, these people are were very valuable for bad networks.
How does that connect to the those children though? That's what I don't understand. Like, how are they involved in this?
They come to you and they say, and you're working on these things to put people on,
Yeah,
yeah, to tap people. And you say, no, I will not do it. Then they are finished. If they can trap you in abusing a child, like it will suck your penis,
yeah.
not more than that. So you did not really harm the child. And
Mm.
they have this on tape, and they ask you, you have to put these two people on tape. And you say, no, I'm not going to do that. They show you what they have. you're gonna do it. They show you while a child is sucking your penis. So that's the lower levels. But then it goes up and up, depending on what they have to do.
So the ones, okay, so those children, just to summarize again, so those children that have a high sensitivity to pain, when they grow up, they are showed a video of a man sexually abusing a child, and then the court or whoever says to them, right, this is what's going on. We want you to go and tap this person, bug them with spyware. Have I got that correct?
But that's not a victim then.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm really confused. Sorry, I'm not
Yeah.
hanging into the story very well then. I just knew that you was talking about the judge shows them a video of a man
No,
being sucked
no.
off by a child, you said.
You're working for a telephone company, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Go back in time. You
yeah,
can see it in old movies. And for instance, when I had to call the United States 40 years ago, I have to ask a connection. And then these people put their little things in it. You know, there are all holes in a huge panel.
yeah, I remember, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then they have to put in, and then they connect you to
Yeah,
United States. Well, imagine this huge
yeah,
panel, all these little holes and all these tabs in.
yeah.
But they could listen to conversations too. And sometimes judges wanted this when it was about drug trafficking or whatever. Then,
They could tap the
okay,
phone, yeah.
these two tap them, listen to what they
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, no, I get that bit. Yeah.
And you can't, you are not allowed to do that on your own. But then you have this criminal mafia of child abusers,
Hmm.
and they want to know things from certain people, where they go, with whom they're in contact, and all that. And they come to you again.
And who am I, who, so I
Maybe,
am, how am I, in this hypothetical scenario, who am I? I am the
well, you're the
criminal?
man who puts the tabs, who has the capacity to put
Yeah, but
people on
am I the
tabs.
criminal or am I the child victim?
You're not
Grown up.
yet the criminal. Okay.
Not yet the
They
criminal.
ask you, okay, you these two people
Yeah.
uh, register what they are saying to each other.
Yeah.
Okay. You say no, I don't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
If I have no court order to do that, I don't. Then they will trap you, or the other people, they're not the same, but the same group. They come to you and um, they bring you in contact with a little girl, right?
Mm.
Like Regina, who told me I was trained to do this.
Yeah.
So they play the little hooker,
Yeah.
and then okay, um, she does the same as Regina did, and she says, "Well, if I don't do this, I'm gonna be punished." And you think, okay, I'm gonna save this child. I'm gonna put it in a way that it fits your profile more. Okay, some men think, okay, well, I'll do it, but you don't seem to be the guy to do that. Then under pressure, you will say, okay, and then she will start to massage you in a way that you get aroused, right? And then she will suck your penis. She will give you a fellatio. Um, you don't know it, but it's filmed. Then they come back. Other people come back to you, and you're in your office, and they say, well, you should tap those two people for us. And you say, no, that's not something I'm going to do. Then they show you what they have. You
Mm.
will. So that's the lower level.
That, yeah, I get that. But so when you talk about the children with the high sensitivity to pain, are those
Well,
the ones
they
that are
are used
they're used as
on
the
the high
sex,
levels.
but those children, are they used as the children that are doing the hookers, like the blackmail hookers? Is that what you mean in that scenario?
Yeah, but then on the highest levels. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, okay, no, I'm with you now. So they were the children that be used to blackmail people by being right.
Yeah.
Now I'm with you. Okay, and then yes, they would also. I think I've also heard it's called sex kitten beta programming as well. That's another name I've heard for that. Anna Kalukas is someone that's what I interviewed. She'd been put through that, and so she'd been programmed to be a sex kitten, and have sex with adults. Yeah,
And like O'Brien, because
yeah,
Cathy O'Brien
Kathy
was one of
O'Brien.
the first
Yeah,
with Regina Louf, who talked about it and wrote books about it many, many years before Anneke Lucas.
Yeah. And so now the children that were had a low threshold to pain, so they could take a lot of pain, how would they be used then? You said they would be taken nearly to death. So what sort of stuff would they go through?
Multiple rape,
Right.
rape with objects, dogs,
Right. Okay.
animals,
Mm.
snakes, but then also
Snake.
they um, they they can revive them if they pass out.
Right.
They so they can be used multiple times and for hours and hours and days. That's why it's so interesting now, the traffic of children. 8 million people, children are disappearing per year in the world now, 800,000 in the United States. Um,
Really? Oh,
because when you sell drugs, you can sell it only once. A child like this that they capture, you can use it tens of times a day, and they don't survive. The average age that they die of exhaustion is 6 years of age by raping
that's the
permanently.
average age.
Yeah, they can't reach a higher level of existence. They are just,
Their bodies just give up.
yeah, they give up. Yeah.
So you've spoken to these people then. You've actually interviewed them, some of these victims,
Oh, yeah,
and
I'm still treating them.
you're still treating
Many.
them. Many of
Mm.
them, yeah, many.